The signal goes from the preamp to the high-pass filter, to the gate, to the insert, to the EQ, to the compression. And order counts. Like a compressor.
Guitar effects.
Yeah, guitar. If you're a guitar player, if you change the order of your effects, it changes how it sounds. Yes.
Yeah.
Same way here. Same way here. Keyboards. You know, if you put a delay into a reverb versus a reverb into a delay, you get a different effect, right? So okay, I'd never put a reverb into a delay, but I definitely put delays into reverb, 100% of the time. So they have a little bit of reverb on my delays, my iterations after the fact. Okay. So from here, we've got, okay, here comes the analogy. We've got an ingredient to our cake. One channel. And we've got that ingredient. Let's say we're making stew, right? So this channel is my carrot. What do I got to do with the carrot? Do I just throw carrot in the stew? No, you go wash it. You go peel it. Right? You chop it up and then you put it in the stew, and sometimes you season it, right? So that's what we've done with one ingredient of our stew. But stew is more than carrots, unless you're Bugs Bunny. Right? Sorry, I saw that. But so, there's rabbit stew, but so now what we're doing is we're taking multiple instruments, multiple ingredients, and we're mixing it together in the right proportions with the right seasoning, reverb. I'm going to come back to that. With the right seasoning, and we're mixing it into a stew that is delicious and inviting and warm and makes you feel good, right? That's what we're doing. Okay? So what we did with the carrot, we got to do with the green beans, with the beef, please. We need beef. I'm not a vegetarian. We need beef. We need broccoli. What else is in stew? Potatoes. Yes, we gotta have potatoes. That's the keyboards right there. They are the potatoes of it. Yes. So does that make sense? So what we did with one channel, we got to do with all our channels. And we can't put too much potatoes in, because it's like, oh, this is good, except, man, every bite I'm eating like just a bunch of potato and I'm barely getting any carrots. That's mixing. Right? So that at the end of it, it's like, this is some good, wholesome stew. Right? And so frequency-wise, too, when we talk about, let's use the term of painting. If I paint a yellow house in a yellow field with a yellow sun and a yellow sky, what is that going to look like? That's a bunch of yellow, isn't it? So if a color is our frequency range, we want our full spectrum to paint a much better, more contrasting, fuller, detailed picture, right? So if some of the darker colors are our bass, and some of the brighter colors are when I say bass, I mean low end, and some of the brighter colors are higher frequencies, we're painting a full fidelity, full color picture. Not yellow on yellow on yellow on yellow, because without the contrast, you'd be like, where's the house? Where's the sun? Where's the field? Right? Mm-hmm. So now we're starting about mixing, which means we're going to mix our main mix into our master left-right bus. Right here. See it right here? Main left-right. See that? So typically, that's a left-right stereo. Question? No. Oh. No, that's all right. So that's where we get into routing. Okay, let me show you the button just really quick. I had it up here before. Where was it, Will? Oh, did I get away from that picture? There. See that button right there, routing? Mm-hmm. Notice in the software, and the reason why I'm showing you software is so that we're not crowded around the console. Next week we're going to have to crowd around the console a little bit. But notice that up here, these are very reminiscent of the buttons underneath the display, which is a touchscreen. Trust me, the touchscreen is nice. Yes? So now we're going to get into routing. Routing is where we tell the signal of a channel to go. I got you. Where's it go? Well, in the pot. Right? Left, right bus. This is the pot. This is where it all gets mixed together, right? So notice I have the wireless channel selected, and here's the channel here. Notice we got other channel strips here, right? Now you'll see this on the screen when you select it too. Now the console has the physical faders below it, and when you hit select, you'll either see, or when you hit routing. Why? I think it's darn on. Anyway, so when you hit the routing button, you'll see either this, or you'll see the actual individual channel like this. This is a blow up of the channel, right? This is more of a summary of the channels. Now, if I look at the summary, we'll do the blow up, but if I look at the summary, I want you to see this here. You see this LR right here, this purple right here? See that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so check it out. So it's solid and it's up. What do you think that means? It's on. It's solid, meaning it's on. Watch it. Mm-hmm. On, i.e. routed or assigned to the left-right bus. And then the meter it's actually the fader's up. Do you see the fader to the right? Look at the fader to the right. Notice that's not the master fader anymore. We're looking at the wireless channel, right? You see that moving? Yeah. Okay, so this first one is whether or not it goes to the left-right bus and how much it is. And then notice the pan. We know what the pan is? Okay, so the pan in the painting analogy is not everything down the middle. We got the house over here. We got a green tree over here. We've got a dude in a red cap in the back, right? That's pan. Okay, this is level. This is pan on the painting. Got it? So, this is off, eraser. So now, if I pick this channel up, hey, I got signal. Why am I not hearing it? Well, if we look at the routing, notice it's not on. Now you hear me a little bit, but now if I turn it up, it's even louder. But notice, gone, but let's look at the channel. The channel is not muted, is it? Is the channel muted? Why am I not hearing it? Why am I not hearing it? It's muted.
Because it's going
elsewhere. It's not muted because it's not assigned, routed to the pot. Why would we do that?
Your in-ears.
Why would we do that? Why would we intentionally do that?
Click track.
Yes, one example, click track. Do we want click track in the pot? What is that? That's a beetle on the counter. We don't want the beetle in the soup, right? We'll get to that. We'll get to what you're waiting for. All right, so we don't want the beetle in the soup, but unfortunately, you need the beetle here to, right? So that's a reason why we would do that, to guard against it going into the pot. Bad. See? So on the click track channel, we would intentionally turn that off, and I would argue we would intentionally do this. But if we do that, nobody gets it. So we can't do that, but we can do fader down and don't assign it here. Now, what are these next ones right here? These are auxiliaries. Auxiliaries. What are auxiliaries? Let's talk about water again, the analogy of water. You've got water coming into your house. So my house is the snare channel. And the next door, that's the kick channel. So 360 esquina is the kick, right? And 362 is the snare, right? So at the water, if I call the bathtub, that's my main water destination, okay? Let's call it the bathtub. But I've got other places I want water to go to. I got the sink in there so I can brush my teeth. I got the sink out in the kitchen. I got the faucet on the side of the house. where I need water to go elsewhere too. But my main goal when I send water to this house is to go to the bathtub, just for argument's sake, okay? So if this is the bathtub, hey, this is the bathtub, right? Then the drums mix is a sink. And I can turn up based upon how much the T handle into the house, how much input to the house, I can turn up how much water I want to go to that sink, and how much water I want to go to this sink, and how much water I go to the side hose gets, right? Because I've got a little spigot there too, right? I've got a little handle, and based upon how much water pressure into the house, preamp, the T handle, based upon how much water in there, depends upon how much I open that up, how much water I'm going to get. So if I'm halfway open, then I'm going to get half of what the T handle's sending me, right? And if I turn up the T handle, what happens to all the spigots in the house, including the bathtub? What happens to them? If I turn the T handle up,
They all go up.
they all go up. If I turn the T handle down, they all go down. So, if everybody's got their, I know this has happened to you, yes or no? Everybody's got their level for something, and the bass is right in the pocket, and then the joker up there decides, I want to turn the gain down, the preamp down. What happens to everybody's level of the bass at that point?
It's
It gets
gone.
turned down. And they're like, I had the bass, but it got lost. Oh yeah, sorry, I had to turn the gain down. So everybody has to go and turn it up in their mix. Be aware of that. But these are what we call auxiliaries, side mixes. The sink, the shower, the spigot out back, okay? But they all are directly correlated to that T handle, the preamp for the house. Okay? Now, but if these are side mixes, then if I go to the snare channel, there's going to be a side mix for that too. It's going to be the side mix, it's going to be the same, that sync. So if I've got a snare channel and a kick channel, right? Snare, kick, right? And if I do a side mix to the drums and the kick channel side mix to the drums, what are we doing? We're making another mix with a different destination, the sync or the drummer. That's a monitor mix, right? And so every channel has all of those auxiliaries. So the drums, as it's set up right now, the drums is aux 1. Bass is aux 2. E-guitar is aux 3, acoustic. So they all get their own monitor mix. That's how we're doing it, right? So this is part of the routing. So if you look over in the side here, the green, what's aux 2? See the green 2 here, right? Here, do you see it? What is that?
Bass.
Well, whose mix is that?
The bass.
The bass, because the bass is aux 2, right? So if this right here is the main left right, then 1 correlates to the bass, the drums, 2 correlates to the bass, 3 correlates to the e-guitar. Make sense? So if I look at the overview again, just about everybody is getting some of these 2 wireless channels. You see that? Right here? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, so if I go over to some other channels, look at that. You're starting to see the mixes for everybody, right? You see that? So it looks like the bass and the e-guitar are getting a lot of e-guitar 2. You see that? But notice what the e-guitar 2, this is a stereo 2 channels, but it's e-guitar 2 left and e-guitar 2 right, right? 2 channels, stereo. See that it's not in the house. See that? E-guitar 1 is, right? So when you start to read the summary here, you start to see, this tells you a lot of stuff, right? Okay? But if you say, hey, I'm not getting bass 1 in the house, and if you were to, okay, I'm not getting bass 1 in the house. When you look at the summary, I can tell you why. The assignment to the left-right bus is off. Do you see that? Do you see how it's framed it, but it's not solid? Right here.
Yep.
So that summary can be helpful to you, right? So let's talk about one other thing. This green button up here. Now it's pink. Green, pink. Notice that the bar changes, right? So in this console, green means pre-fader, pink means post-fader. The left-right bus will always be post-fader. You can't change that. But the auxes, notice that one right there. You see that one, number 12? The auxes can be pre-fader and post-fader. What does that mean? Well, it's kind of self-explanatory. It means the level. So remember we talked about the bathtub analogy? If it's pre-fader, me adjusting the bathtub doesn't affect the sinks that are pre-fader. If it's post-fader, if I turn down the bathtub, all the sinks that are post-fader go down with it. So the fader, the main fader on the console for that channel affects the level of anything post the fader. If it's pre-fader, it's not. So applications. Monitors always need to be pre-fader because when you're mixing back there, you don't want to be changing the levels for these guys. Am I right? Please don't. With one exception. Playback. I got a singer up here, I got a wedge. She's singing away. She's hearing the music through the wedge. And I have a brother who's a pastor in a church in North Carolina. It's one of those country churches. And they sing to these slow, sounds like country music tracks. And they always finish, and there's like 10, 15 seconds of play off where the track still keeps going, but she's done singing, and she's already walking off. As soon as she's done, she's walking off, puts the mic off, she's going down, and the music's still playing. If the music is pre-fader, and I decide at the board to fade it out in the house because she's done, if it's pre-fader, it'll still be coming out of that wedge. But if it's post-fader, when I start to fade it out in the house, it'll go away in the wedge. So playback is one area where the application may be. I'm not talking about multi-track playback like Ableton Live or something like that. I'm talking about playback like a live singer and just playback. Okay? Another thing too is reverb. Let's talk about reverb. I said I'd use salt. I said salt at one point when we're using the cooking analogy. Everybody know what reverb is? It's basically recreating an acoustical space. Dry vocals are not pleasing to the ear. Help me spell Desiree. That's desire, isn't it? You know who I mean by Desiree? She's an artist. Sorry. For now, okay, we're going to hear reverb. What's the stupid one from Titanic? My heart will go on. This one? Okay. I apologize in advance. Listen to her vocal. Listen to her vocal. This is reverb. Wait, look up Desiree for me. I think it's an accent in E.
Every night in my dreams, I see
Listen to
you.
the S's and T's.
I feel you. That is how I know you. Go on.
You hear how it sounds like really echoey? That's reverb, right?
Far across the distance.
Again, I apologize. That's reverb. That's reverb for effect. Reverb is two applications. Recreate a room, a ambient space, or for an effect. Like that. That's an effect, okay? So reverb, when I use reverb as a description of salt, when we cook, again, cooking analogy, I can use salt in 3 different ways. I can add no salt and it feels bland and bleh, right? I can use a ton of salt to where all you really taste is the salt. Also, meh. Or I can season to taste to where it brings out the natural flavor of the food we're eating, yes? Good chefs season to where it actually brings out the natural flavors and excites the natural flavors of what you're eating, but doesn't draw attention to the salt. That's the mindset of reverb.
Desiree by Neil Diamond.
No, Desiree, the artist.
Um,
I think the name of the song is You Gotta Be.
oh, it's DES apostrophe REE.
D-E-S apostrophe. I knew it was something. D-E-S apostrophe
RE.
R-E.
Desiree.
All right, so here's the song. Listen to this one. Did I mute it again? I did. Listen to her vocal on this one.
Listen as your day unfolds. Challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers think.
Now, I'm going to tell you something you're going to be surprised at. There's reverb on that. It's very subtle. But if there's no reverb, it would be painfully naked. There is reverb on that, but it is a reverb that is introduced, because she's recording in a studio with foam everywhere. It is like dead quiet, okay? So there's no ambient feedback on the microphone. They are introducing her they're putting reverb to introduce her to an acoustical space that she's not actually in. It's probably a small room, but there is reverb. They even do it so ADR, automatic dialogue replacement, when they film movies, the artists always come back in later and they re-record their dialogue. When you're looking at a movie, you're not hearing what they said on camera. You're hearing what they're saying in a studio in time of what they're saying in there. And what they do is they use reverb to recreate the space that they are in the movie. So that's why I said there's 2 types of reverbs. There's recreating an ambient space, small rooms, wood rooms, open halls. And then there's for effect, spring reverbs, plates, halls, cathedrals. The Celine Dion is the example of for effect. The Desiree is the example of for an acoustical space. It's placed on drums a lot, like a certain type of room. And then they'll do the whole kit in a room. And then they'll do like the snare and to a degree, the toms to a lesser degree, some actual effect reverb to thicken it up. Okay? That's part of the artistic expression. But so, why do I talk about reverb at this point when we're talking about auxiliaries? Because that's how you feed the, notice the, this is the playback channel we're looking at right now. Notice everything's post-fader. Remember we talked about how playback you'd want to put it post-fader? So that if anybody were to have, I can see the drums and the bass actually listen to playback before the service. They're probably doing that so that they can hear when the front of house music is faded out. And it has to be post-fader for them to hear it actually fade out. If it's pre-fader, it'll stay there. And then unless he mutes the channel, if he just pulls the fader out, it's going to be playing in his mix while he's trying to play another song. Right? But so reverb, when we talk about reverb, we're seasoning the taste. It's a ratio between the dry, the original signal, and the reverb, what we call wet. And once you get that amount of salt in the stew, you want to maintain that ratio. If you do it pre-fader, if you bring the instrument down, that ratio changes. But if you make it post fader to where the reverb is affected by the fader, as you bring it down, that ratio maintains. So any effect, delay, reverb, or any effect like that, you want to set those sends to the effect processor. You want to make them post fader. Always. Okay? The only time you wouldn't do it is if you're looking to do situation where the fader's down and all you're getting is the effect. Like a flute, where you just want a reverby flute, where they're playing up here, but all you get out there. Then you would make it pre-fader to where you pull the fader down, you don't get any of the dry, and you get nothing but wet. Make sense? Okay. So if you look here, as I look through the routing, you've got all the different sinks and spigots and stuff, but at the end here you see verb, drum verb, delay, and the doubler. So they have built-in, this console has built-in effects processors. You're not going out into an external reverb unit and then back into a channel. So they actually have, the effect sends are like, they're aux sends as well, but they're dedicated for those internal processing units. Gets a little tricky, that routing and stuff. I'm getting there, aren't I? So let's go through the routing process so we can see how we would route a channel, okay? Let's do this microphone again. Hey. So if we're routing, we hit the routing button again. We come over to the wireless, which is right here, right? And you can see right here, it shows the fader for the wireless, right? So, and then if I turn it off here, that's off in the left-right bus, correct? If I turn it up and down here, right? Now, let's check pan. Left, right. And then somewhere in between. So let's talk about the pan for a minute. Remember we talked about spatialization on a painting where not everything's down the middle, right? If you put everything down the middle, even though you have two channels, you're basically mono. Okay? The true definition of stereo is two discrete, meaning different, channels of audio tied together. So if I have a stereo audio file, we've all worked with audio files a little bit, right? Downloaded music, right? A WAV file, right? If you have a stereo audio file, two channels, and the left side and the right side are identical, you actually have a 2-track mono file. And it's taking up twice as much space as it should. Stereo, we deal in stereo because you can hear it. Will, do me a favor and hop on that microphone right there and just talk into it for a second. And I'm going to demonstrate. Our mind is actually quite complex on how we perceive sound. Give me a second here. Keep talking.
1, 2, hey, 1, 2, hey, test,
Hi,
test.
hi,
One.
hi.
Hi.
What are you?
1, 2.
What's happening? Hi.
Hi.
All right. So now.
1, 2.
So you can hear me talk. Go ahead and talk.
Hey, 1.
Hey. So our mind actually can process a lot of things when it comes to our hearing. Our hearing is 3D too. Right? So when we talk about 3D glasses, I lose my depth perception. If I do this, right? Guess what? I lose my perception of space if I cover up one of my ears. How does it do it? Well, obviously amplitude. It's louder here than it is here for this microphone. Hey. It's louder here than it is here. But where you're sitting, not only is it louder, but it actually, when I... Hey. Right now when I'm talking, it reaches your left ear slightly sooner than it does your right ear. Your mind perceives that. If you were to close your eyes and I walked around, you'd know where I'm at, right? So volume, timing, and guess what? Because your head is in the way of your right ear, some of the high frequency drops off in your right ear as opposed to your left ear. That tonal difference, because of your head blocking, is the third way that your mind hears that. So all of that is to say that you can open up your mix and add intelligibility, clarity of individual instruments and stuff if you start to use your space. Where? Drums. Snare, kick, tom, tom, tom. So when they do it, it actually moves and people hear it. Vocals. Vocal 1, vocal 2, vocal 3, vocal 4. If you pan them out, that will sound like here versus here. And instead of having to try to do, oh, this one, oh, that one's louder. Now you've got, so even if they're quieter, because of the spatialization, it's easier to hear them because your mind can process that, okay? That's why we do stereo, okay? So don't forget in certain things, if it's a single instrument, if it's a keyboard naturally has space, or it's usually stereo, right? Mm-hmm. So as they move across the thing, low to high, it'll move left to right, okay? So, but don't get too overboard. If I'm playing the piano and it goes across the room, that might be a much, but if it goes in perspective, so be aware of that. Don't go half of the people to the right, half of the people left. Go, 60%, 40%, leader in the middle, 40%, 60%. See what I'm saying? Okay? So use that. That's part of the routing. So that, and then, so that's the front of house mix. Right now, the monitors, none of them are stereo. They're mono because of equipment and restrictions. We just don't have, we need another stage box to get go stereo because of many mixes we're using. At some point, if they want to add that, it's just money. It really boils down to money. What?
When you pan it, does it just take away from the side you're panning away from, or does it add a bit? So how does
That's a good question. So there are two different types of pans. I'm not sure about this one. So there are two different types of pans. There's a rule of law in physics of sound that says a doubling of power raises a sound by 3 dB, and a halving of power lowers it by 3 dB. So essentially, when I pan over here, I'm taking the energy of 2 speakers and reducing it to 1. So modern pans will, as you pan towards the left, will turn it up 3 dB, to where you don't get a drop in volume because you're only coming out of one cavity. I'm not sure if this one does. But if you're noticing that panning, it causes it. But the thing is, once you fix your pan and your spatialization, then you just mix. You know what I mean? But modern consoles do kind of account for that. That's a good question because, again, that's part of what they call the inverse square law. A doubling in distance or a halving in distance, you lose or gain 6 dB. So if I'm 2 feet away from a speaker and I back up to 4 feet, I've lost 6 dB of energy. That's why it's quieter in the back and not so much in the front. If I go, now we talk about double distance. Now for me to lose 6 more dB, if I'm 4 feet away, I have to move another 4 feet. So now I'm 8 feet away to lose that same 6 dB. So it's a change of 2 feet between 2 feet and 4 feet, but it's a change of 4 feet between 4 feet and 8 feet to lose that same amount. It's a logarithmic movement. Okay? Okay, let's talk really quick. I've got a little bit of time. I'm going to talk about DCAs and mute groups. We're going to look back at the routing, and you probably saw them a little bit up top here. You see where it says DCA assign, mute group, mute assign. You see that? What's a DCA? The term DCA stands for digitally controlled amplifier. The older term was VCA, voltage controlled amplifier, but because we're in the digital, the DCA term is now applied. Basically, if you look at the drums over here, you see the drums here are assigned to 1, and then the toms are assigned to 2, 1 and 2, and then they're all assigned to 8. And then as we go across, all of the drums are assigned to 1, right? The toms are assigned to 2, and then every instrument is assigned, in the band, is assigned to 8. So a DCA, the short story is, a DCA is multiple faders on one fader. So, because the drums are assigned to DCA 1, if I go to DCA 1, you see the drums here? It doesn't show me the fader here. I guess the fader is actually... I have a custom, the inputs, DCAs. Yeah. I think it's a software issue. The software doesn't show. So anyway, so I can put the DCA on the console, DCA 1, and if I take that one fader and I pull it down, all of the drums, because they're assigned to DCA 1, go down. So instead of having to grab a whole bunch of faders, I just grab one. So once I get a good mix of the kick versus the snare versus the hat versus the overheads and the toms, once the drums are mixed as a nice tight kit, then to turn it up and down, I just have to grab one fader, the DCA fader. Yeah? So why do the toms? Well, with this console, you're limited to so many faders you have on the console. So what we did for mixing is you have different custom banks. The top bank is we've made the operating mixing bank, the top layer. We have it to where if you want to see all the drums, you have to go to the layer where the drums are individualized and do that. But then on your mixing, your active mixing, you've got the kick, the snare, the hat, the toms, which is all the toms on a single fader, and then the overheads, and then the drums. So you have just in a few things, like what could be a lot more faders, right? So we're kind of paring some stuff down, right? And then, but the drums, I can do all the drums on the main page. And then notice that everything was on 8. 8 is the band. So now, remember we talked about how I move throughout the song dynamically? The band in a verse, I usually have 2, 3, 4 dB down, depending upon the song, in the verse. Because the verse are lyrics that are unique versus the chorus is more of a repeating situation, right? So again, intelligibility is an issue, and then of course just energy. Usually when you get in the chorus, the music, the band comes in, right? So I'm actively, as we get into the chorus, pushing the band up into the vocals, but in a verse, the band down just below the vocals. But the way I mix, I have the vocals and the band on separate DCAs. If I could literally, in sound check, if I want to hear what the vocals sound like, I can pull the band and I can have just the vocals going through the bathtub and see how they sound against each other without the other stuff getting in my way, and then bring the band back in. Or I can pull the vocals out and hear how the band sounds. And then at the end, I'm really can ride the difference between the two. It gives me a little bit of like control, like master control. Whoa, these horses. Whoa, those horses, right? Versus horsey, 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 horsey. You know what I mean? So that's what a DCA is. A mute group. A mute group, again, a mute group is assigning a whole bunch of channels to a single button to mute. Okay, so on the software it's a little bit difficult. We'll see this next week. But so if I mute, there's different types of mute. There's a hard mute. A hard mute is when I mute the channel. When I mute the channel, notice it goes solid. That is a hard mute. That means it is the channel that's muted. A soft mute is when a mute group or a DCA that it's assigned to is muted. So if you mute the DCA of the vocals, all the vocals will start flashing. Okay? But notice if I hard mute this one, now it becomes a different type of flash. You see that? So that means it's hard muted and it's soft muted. Okay? So a mute group allows me to, in a fail swoop, like when they're done, I kind of do it like this. The keys are on a mute group. The lead, like a lot of times you've got like the guitar player singer is the lead, like lead, not necessarily the music director, but the lead, you know what I mean? Lead singer, kind of like when Sam was here, like you were the music director. When I talk about the lead, I mean the person who leads the song the most, kind of like the lead person. I'll assign them to the lead button, and then I'll assign, so band, keys, lead, and then vocals, right? So that means, why do I do that? As soon as the pastor starts praying and the band's not playing, I mute everybody, except for maybe if I feel like the lead is going to play guitar in the background or maybe sing, depending upon the vibe, I can unmute him. Or if the keyboards is playing a pad or something behind the preacher praying or something like that, I can undo the keyboard. But the rest of the band, the last thing I need is to hear him drop a stick. Or, you know what I mean? Or unpatching or whatever. So I do the band, I quieten the band to protect them from themselves. But the reason why I do the keys separately and the lead separately is for those occasions when they need to play in the back. So they don't have to, I have to unmute the whole band just to get the keys for that synth pad. And then finally the vocals, there are times where the band may play, like on an invitation may play, but the vocals aren't involved. Or they're coming up and like they're playing like the invitation, getting ready for the song and they're grabbing their microphones. I don't need that out in the house either. So that's usually the 4 ways I use mute groups. So I'll mute usually the vocals, sans the lead, right? The vocals, it can get a little tricky sometimes, like if they're praying, like if they have like one of the background singers prays for the offering or something like that, depending upon the liturgy of the church. Sometimes you go, so you just have to just pull the other guys down. You know what I mean? Depending upon what they're doing. But that's basically the structure I do. So the mute groups are, again, like the DCA is one fader to rule them all. The mute group is one button to mute them all.
But it can be independent. So for example, the band might be on the keyboard might be in the band group, but they can be on a separate mute group, right?
Yeah, you can mix and match. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I could have the keyboard is actually on the band DCA,
Yeah.
but not on the band mute
But-
group.
Correct. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So you need to remember that too. So if you decide one day to mute the band by muting the DCA, you're muting the keyboard too, but if you mute it at the mute group, the keyboard is removed from that mute. And you may want to use that to your advantage. Or maybe a time like, no, I want the keyboard off too. Mute it at the DCA because you know they're part of the DCA. So it's a choice where if you know what's going on, you can make different decisions. Okay. So how are we doing for the first night? Good? Yeah? Are there any questions? Please don't hesitate to ask questions. If you don't want to ask it now, I'll stay for a little bit after. I can answer questions after too. The EQ idea. EQing is part of that. It takes time. If you ask yourself, how do I know what sounds good and what doesn't? Listen to a lot of music. Listen to it on a good pair of speakers, if you can, the best you can afford. One of the best trainings I had for learning what sounded good and what doesn't is I sit and run monitors for a band in a really good environment, 10 shows a week for 23 years. I become attuned to it. If you've ever heard the analogy they talk about when they teach a new Secret Service agent, the Secret Service is in charge for counterfeit money too, right? When they train a new Secret Service agent how to find counterfeit money, they don't teach them all the different aspects of what could be counterfeit. They get them to know the real thing really, really, really well. To where they know it so well, they only have to know one thing: what a real $100 bill looks like, what it feels like, what are the things about it that make it real. So that anything else is obvious, that's not real. It's the same way with listening. Tune yourself, listen to music. When you start to, I can't listen to music without analyzing it. Listening to the reverb, there's actually some good guys on Facebook in my algo, as it were, serves up a lot of people, these guys who break down music. And they point out interesting things about popular music, like Le Freak from Chic, and how they do certain aspects, how they mix it, and different aspects of production and stuff like that. That's some really cool stuff like that. I even, I listen to the mix. What's really there and what's not? What's being panned? We were just discussing tonight, as we were coming over, we were listening to a little Zeppelin, and back in those ages, they used pan, and he was like, I think that he was saying, the Beatles were pretty much like the only ones who did a lot of weird panning. I said, Hendrix loved just putting something way over there. Yes, you did.
No, I said the Beatles were
Anyway.
doing weird stuff.
Hendrix would put something just on the right side and that's it. So if you're listening with one earbud, you might lose it. Listening to some Hendrix with earbuds and you'll start to hear some stuff. But I started telling them about an album by The Who called Quadrophenia. Quadrophenia was recorded in quadraphonic sound. Anybody know what that is? Well, quad, it's 4 speakers, it's 4 channels. And they used to do it to where it was 4, and it was a vinyl album, and it was 4 speakers. You had to have a special record player to play it and all that jazz. But it was the whole album was a concept album, and it was in full, what at the time was the equivalent of surround sound. So, there's a lot of things, if you listen to music, popular music, you'll start to hear the things like if you've ever heard, let me see if I can find it really quick. We talked about the flange effect, and I want you to hear some phase issues just really quick and what it sounds like. It's going to be, let's pull that down. So there's a bridge here. Here it comes. Listen to the guitar. That's a snare, isn't it? Yeah. You hear that effect? And then it goes away again, right? That effect you're hearing, that's the flange effect we talked about. That's actually intentional phase comb filtering. They take those 2 instruments. So that's actually intentional. That's the flange effect, but what they're doing, so with that movement that you hear is the time alignment changing. But when you have a fixed time alignment, the comb filtering is fixed, and so you have to start hearing that. So let's see if we can recreate it, okay? We're going to... You hear that? You ever heard that? Actually, just recently on the Facebook page for Churches Sound, are you part of that? You should join it. There's a lot of good stuff on there. Facebook is like, I'll send it to you and you share it with everybody. The guy was saying, we're getting this effect every time the pastor gets up and starts talking. What's that effect? That's time alignment that goes out of the range of phase cancellation and gets into the very slight area of doubling. That's a double effect. So what's happening when they go with the music, it sounded fine. As soon as a preacher stands up, they're like, hey, we get this weird effect. What's happening is the preacher's mic is probably double routed to where they've got it, and to their broadcast end, they've got the original from the house routed to the matrix. And then a very common problem in broadcast on a console is your band is really loud, but when the pastor comes along, he's really quiet. Because you don't want to run the pastor as loud as the band was, trust me. People will be like, what are you doing? Right? But so on the broadcast, though, you kind of want them even when people are watching on their TV, right? So watch what happens when it goes away. Fine. Hear that sound? That is no longer phase cancellation. That is in that realm of doubling. The delay is so broad that instead of it's doubled in that, but it's very close to where you get that weird sound. They have a second route coming in that they have it goosed to where we get the extra volume on that one microphone, but there's something going on in that second route that they're bringing in that either they've introduced some kind of processing that has introduced latency to what they're sending. And so now this is the band, when they add that second one in, it's delayed too much. And it sounds like a double, not phase cancellation, a double. So they need to either delay the original or they need to find out what's delaying the secondary. Any processing you introduce in line introduces latency, delay. And that's what they're doing. So where's the line in milliseconds? Because of the way frequencies are and the way phase cancellation is, anything over about 25 milliseconds crosses over from phase cancellation into doubling. So again, we're gonna listen to this. And you say, okay, well, why is that doing that? I intentionally introduced the delay here. You say, but that's only 11 milliseconds. It is, but there's something else. There's other things going on. There's EQ in here that aren't the same as the other channel. More EQ, more processing, which is introducing more than that 11 milliseconds, right? Now you hear phase cancellation. You hear it? It sounds like almost like somebody covered part of the speaker. That's phase cancellation. That sounds weird. Why is that doing that? Another example of real world application. Over at my home church, the engineer there was saying, something sounds weird about the drums. I went in, I listened to it, and I said, it's your reverb. Why does your reverb's phase canceled? I want you to learn how to recognize the sound. I was like, your reverb is phase canceled. Why is that? The way he has his drum set up, he has his drum set up into an audio subgroup. Audio subgroup is all those channels get mixed to a stereo mix and then gets added to the bus. Why would we do that? So we can compress the drums as a single stereo mix. Not just the kick, not just the snare compressed, not just the toms compressed, but the drums as a stereo mix, we can compress those and then throw them into the thing, right? Well, he was adding the reverb into that, routing-wise, which is fine. The drum reverb was in that stereo submix, but it was also routed directly to the left-right bus. So the reverb was going here and through processing, but here directly. So it was double routed, but the one that went direct was coming sooner than the one that was going through the bus that was being processed. The latency was introduced, so the reverb was the only thing that was out of alignment with each other. So learning to hear it first, then learning, okay, that's phase cancellation. Phase cancellation is coming from a doubling that's out of time alignment. Where am I double routing at? Makes sense? That's why I talk about phase and want you to hear it. I want you to hear what it sounds like so you can identify it. Normal, phase cancel. And watch when I change. Different frequency, different kind of tonal thing. Kind of moves down the scale of tonal cancellation. But if I move it slowly, now that's more of a doubling. That's a severe doubling. That's like, all right. That's a quarter, just over a quarter of a second. 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second. So 250 milliseconds is a quarter of a second. Hear that? But so a lot of people recognize that, oh, that's a doubling delay. But what they fail to a lot of times is that they don't recognize that as also a delay. Because it's just a little bit different. You don't hear the distinct slap. You're just hearing it like it's so close together, but it's not phase canceling. But as soon as I get close, now you hear the phase canceling. Now here's another interesting phenomenon. Went away, didn't it? Phase canceling has to happen when the energy canceling is equal to the energy. Both energies have to be equal to cancel. So if I take, remember we had those two, the red and the blue? If I diminish that one, then the cancellation is diminished, right? Because you need equal negative to cancel the equal positive. So if you reduce one side, usually around 10 dB, the effects are negligible. Okay? So notice, you won't hear it till I start. Once I raise the level to equal, now the cancellation, the +3 is equal to the -3. Yeah? And that's pretty drastic. But now you kind of know what to listen for. You say, okay, I've got something doubled and out of time. That helps you find the tactile run. Enough of Phil Collins and Genesis, yeah? We good?
We're good. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, so next Monday, same bat time, same bat channel.
Any homework?
Huh?
Any homework? What would you like us to do?
Homework, yes.
Everybody's moaning that I asked that question.
No, good question. All right. Everybody's got YouTube, yes?
Yep.
Let's see. I gotta find out exactly which. So I sent these to David.
And if you text anything to me, I'll send it to the group.
I feel like, did I send you like the first of a series of SQ classes at one point?
I would have to look, but my camera's running, so.
Yeah, no worries. Will help me out. Let me see if I can. SQ. No, I'm trying to find the link to YouTube. There's some YouTube videos. Here it is. I think this is it. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Let me find out what the name of the group is that does this. There's actually Audio Logistics Systems. Audio Logic Systems. Here we are. All right, look up Audio Logic Systems in YouTube, and they have a series of SQ6 trainings. These are really good. This is a really good series of classes. The SQ6 is the same as the 7, same as the 5. It's just a different size surface, but the software is the same. The firmware is a little older in this class, but the concepts are there, and it's a really good class. And this should help familiarize you with what I talked about tonight, solidify some stuff for next week. It's, gosh, it is, what is that, 7? Part 5, part 6. Looks like 6 different parts. And it shows you the surface a little bit more. I showed you the software so we can look at it from here, but that shows you the surface, kind of how to use it on the surface. So it'll get you familiar for next week when we start doing some stuff. Okay? And anybody else who wants to come next week, they're welcome to do it. But I can't go back and at the detriment of people who showed up tonight. But they're welcome to show up.
Yep, and I will have this available, even though
Yes.
it's just,
Perfect.
yep.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Again, don't get disappointed.